May in the garden could even give April a run for its money, especially if you've had some very nice rain showers in April to make your blooms flourish. Today's garden tour is going to be all about what is blooming in my early May garden. So it's not everything, but I'm going to show you what is sparkling right now. I would like to start off by showing you my poolside flower beds because everything in there has just started blooming, and now I'm starting to get those tropical vibes. So please come and enjoy it with me. I have a couple of great things happening over here. One is my canna lilies. I have quite a nice variety of canna lilies over here. They do come with different colored leaves, different colored flowers, and they also vary in height. So make sure you're looking at tags when you're buying them to see what it is that you're looking for. Obviously this one has a red flower and the darkly colored leaves, which I just love. This one in the front are yellow. I got those from my friend. We exchanged canna lilies so I can have a little bit more yellow in my life. Right here is one of my very prolific bloomers. My blanket flower, this is just one little poof of him. He's also right here, and this one in this particular part of my yard is just beginning to bloom now. As I said, prolific bloomers. These blanket flowers have found a home inside the cracks of my paving stones because, you know, they thought it would be safe and cozy in there. I also have my purple heart, and if you look closely, you can see little tiny purple flowers on the purple heart. I do, of course, like to have a variety of some potted plants as well as some in the ground, especially when you're this early in the season. Everything isn't yet in bloom, so it's nice to toss a few little flowers in pots inside the garden and use up that space. Right here I have, in this very adorable container, petunias. Right here in this pot I have what I like to refer to as baby petunias because, you know, they look like a tiny version of these. But no, they have their very own name that is difficult to say. I'm gonna cheat. Calibrachoa. I don't know, let's just pretend they're baby petunias, more yellow. I just wanted to get this beauty out into the sun a little bit so you could see it better. Here's another one with a really cool and interesting name that probably everybody says differently, but we'll call her Bougainvillea. So this gorgeous flower has thorns, be careful, but is really, really interesting. And I decided to put it into a pot with my stone crop, which is another prolific grower on my property, and I can include it in this as something that's flowering because it does have these tiny little yellow flowers. So the Bougainvillea is a climber, and actually it has been extremely windy here the last 3 or 4 days. I mean really gusty, and this kind of has some delicate branches. So let me just show you this one thing. So in this really, really gusty wind we've had, this pretty large branch blew off, and I wasn't happy with that, of course, but I have heard that you can propagate Bougainvillea, so I'm going to do that. So for now, I just have the stem in water. It seems to be fine for right now, but I am going to actually put it into soil and see if I can get it to root again. Before we leave this area completely, if you've seen any of my other videos, you may have seen that I had two hibiscus plants living inside my waterfall that I brought into my greenhouse for the winter, and now I have transplanted them back into the waterfall again. Well, this one closest to me has had a little bit of difficulty. Again, the major winds that we've been having these last few days, it has just been kind of blown out of place, and I'm trying to keep it staked so that the roots can really grab hold in there, but it's just been a tumultuous week. However, this hibiscus is the first one to show me a flower right here since I put it into the waterfall. So just like canna lilies, hibiscus come in all sorts of varieties as well. You can get them as perennials or annuals. The perennials are cold hardy even in the north in really cold temperatures. They of course come in tons of different colors, etc. This one is called Fiesta hibiscus. The name is apropos. Look at these colors. They are just so fun and awesome. This is my most favorite hibiscus. Typically, hibiscus are flowering beauties for me in the summer. This one, however, was kept in my greenhouse for the winter, so it is currently blooming because it got an early start. This sweet little arrangement here has some sedum in it, my stone crop, and then this is yellow mandevilla. The yellow mandevilla is like a trumpet-shaped flower. It is a tropical feel and vibe. It will not be a perennial for me outdoors, but it is something that I can save, take inside, and put it back in arrangement for next year. Everything on this side of the waterfall, also a poolside garden, is really summer blooms, so we're gonna have to skip over all of those right now and just talk about this little arrangement as well. This is another mandevilla, so it's a bit of a viney plant, and the flowers, you know, are even seen on little trellises and stuff, which I may build for this one. We'll see. And again, some creeping Jenny to fill out the pot. Not to completely overdo it with the mandevilla, but I purposely made this arrangement, again using the yellow mandevilla, to pair with my dark purple / black elephant ears. The elephant ears are a tropical vibe by themselves. I've never had one before. This is my first time, but the purple and the yellow are complementary colors. Art's my other thing. I really want an arrangement that would be tropical vibes and the complementary colors. Success. Still staying in the backyard, I have this pink drift rose plant right here next to my pool pump. So I actually have it in a couple places over here. It's great for this area. It is a ground cover rose. So we have some pink flowers with a more pale inside with yellow stamens in the center, and it just is plentiful with its blooms. It's like, how could you resist it? And it's mounding so nicely. I love the way this performs. This flower bed, I guess I would call it my rock garden, so, since this is where my huge boulders that had come from underneath the water, remember my Cretaceous period sea creature boulders? Well, since they're all here, let's call this the rock garden. I have wisteria here behind me. My wisteria is stunning in mid-April, so by now most of the blooms have expired, but I still have some purple cascading blooms that are left for my viewing pleasure. So that's one thing that's the same. I do have pink drift roses here again, more blanket flowers. Now, these blanket flowers right beside me, I really want you to take notice of. They have all propagated from the same seeds, yet this one has come out differently. A couple things have happened here. First of all, it looks like we have multiple blooms that have almost joined together to become not a full circle and more than a semicircle. That's one thing. So the blooms are totally different. And the stems that have those blooms on the top are flat instead of the regular stems that have regular blooms, just a singular bloom, are round. So I don't actually know what happened to the blanket flowers to make them look like that. But unfortunately, during this wind I was talking about, most of the stems on the blanket flowers did break. It looks like I'm going to have to dig up that plant because it isn't going to make it with all the broken stems. The dahlia. The dahlia is likely my favorite flower. Although I could probably say that about multiple things, but this one in particular is such a stunner. In my growing zone 8A, I happen to be on the line of where dahlias are perennials or annuals. I have 3 plants that keep coming back for me, so that's great, but I have also lost probably at least another 3. So they're not prolific bloomers for me just yet, but I got this one from a local nursery that just sets up shop basically seasonally, and I have great success with their dahlias, so I bought this. I do believe I'm going to put this baby where the blanket flowers get removed from. The only reason I didn't put it in the ground up until this point was because of the wind. I didn't want these to be knocked over or broken. My phlox, which is a Crimson Beauty moss phlox, has been blooming since very early spring. I want to say very early March. This baby is one that comes out when temperatures are still a little bit frosty and still a little nippy, but yet the first colors that come out are these. It is a ground cover. It does spread. You can divide it up and move it to other places in your landscape. I love phlox. Behind me, this is the first time you're seeing my Shasta daisies with blooms. So the Shasta daisies stay in a nice green clump in the winter time here for me, but they just started blooming just within the last few days. They are going to bloom for me all summer. You do have to deadhead them to keep them blooming. And the other thing is they tend to get fairly tall and may want to start leaning over, especially if if a breeze begins to take them. So you may need to stake them up to keep them upright. Right here beside me, I have my bearded irises. Now I have yellow right here and purple right here. I know my purple got a little bit spent now, and that's sad because again, the yellow and the purple are complementary colors, and I really did want you to see that, but unfortunately, he decided he was camera shy. I'm about to have a whole plethora of red daylilies behind me, but since they're not blooming right now, I can't speak of them. However, on this side, my orange daylilies are in bloom, so I can talk about them. Orange daylilies, you could see them growing wild on the side of the road. Unfortunately, they are considered to be invasive plants. You may or may not want to have them in your landscaping because of it. Still staying in the backyard, but moving to the other side for right now. I have these yellow Asiatic lilies. Now I bought them, so they're already in bloom because again, they were started ahead of time. The difference between Asiatic lilies and Oriental lilies like the Stargazer, which is so stunning, there's no scent to these, whereas like your stargazers, for example, they're so fragrant. When they open, boy oh boy, you know they're around, which is so cool. But anyway, again, I guess I'm having a yellow thing. I didn't even realize how much yellow I was putting into my garden this year. Over here to my left, I have some magenta dianthus. Dianthus is something that has been blooming since very early spring, just like the phlox. So if you want vibrant, early color, dianthus could be for you. And in fact, I went to Walmart the other day because I have to cruise through every single garden center every time I go to the store. And this variety of dianthus, which is so sweet because it's got pink petals with dark pink or burgundy inside, was on clearance for $5. You know I had to get that because this dianthus does so great for me. I figured, why not? So over here by my seahorse focal point that you can't really see in this shot right now, I have two things blooming. One is my hibiscus, who is being slightly camera shy right now. And I really don't blame it because we've had temperatures in the evenings that got down into the 40s the last couple of nights. What? Typically in my area of southeastern North Carolina, by May, we're in the 80s. Today, right now, is barely 70 degrees. So this is not normal for us. Anyway, I have a gorgeous red hibiscus here, and he's in a stunning aqua pot, and I love that color combination together. Right here, I have some English daisies. So we have some shades of pink and magenta and very light pink, almost white flowers. Loving those as well. I very rarely talk about shade-loving plants because I don't have a ton of shade in my yard, but I did make this little pot of some begonias, and I just wanted to talk about them since they are blooming, and I have them right next to my hydrangea, and my hydrangea has buds, but since it's not blooming, I guess that's all we have to say about that. Moving into my front yard, I have a few things happening. I have some more irises. This one looks like a root beer float to me. I just love the colors of it. Very creamy and kind of delicious. Another yellow and white bearded iris right here. And can you see all of my orange daylilies over there? Yeah, I know. In my peninsula garden that is in my front yard, I have my very first echinacea bloom right here. This is a perennial. It is a coneflower. It gets decently tall. Not nearly as great of a bloomer for me, or as a multiplier. It doesn't spread as easily for me as my black-eyed Susans do, which are the yellow coneflowers. Nevertheless, echinacea is one of my favorites, no doubt. So I have that here, and I have a purple salvia right here. Hopefully you can see it, not hiding too much. And of course, what are those? Orange daylilies. Moving on through the peninsula, I have more dahlias. These are Labella Grande. These are red and white. They were stunners before all this wind came, blew the petals off. I mean, they really just took a beating from the wind, and it stinks because I love me some dahlias. Dahlias should last me until the first frost. Here is another dianthus. It's another variety, different than the other two that I showed you, but again, just so stunning. Kind of looks a little like mini carnations. So this area right here has some very adorable things. First, my Dolce Wildberry has those beautiful purple leaves and these tiny pink flowers on the stems. That's one thing. This is my Twilight Evening Primrose with the most just precious pink, light purple flowers on that. And then I have this dianthus over here. These three items all perennials, all like sun, and all are in the same color family. So I love them together. The vibrant color that you see right here is Dragon's Breath. The reason I love this is not only for that vibrance that you get in its color, both in the flowers as well as the leaves, but this is very heat tolerant. So that's great for our North Carolina summers. I do have some knockout rose bushes. They perform best for me this time of year, their first bloom. And then I have a hanging basket of petunias up there. Love those. Here is another favorite coneflower. This is the double scoop bubblegum. I have lots of little buds on here that are going to turn into flowers. This bloom itself is going to get even more beautiful with a really big top on it. Love that. And then behind me, I have some snapdragons in that pot right there. They really favor cooler weather. So right now we're on the brink of that turning, but I still have blooms in that pot to enjoy. I would like to end my blooming garden tour right here by my front door. So I have yet another red canna lily with the dark leaves that is in bloom. And I also have this peach hibiscus. Hibiscus, like you can see, I have multiple plants of them around. I really do love them as a flower. That tropical feel just makes me feel good. And from what I understand, you can propagate hibiscus. So I have not done that before, but rest assured that is on my list of things to try. Thank you so much for taking this tour with me of what I have blooming in my early May garden. Stick with me because you are not going to miss what comes out in bloom really soon. Happy planting.